Okay, I'll open the meeting, but before I do, I'm gonna tell you that anybody that speaks out of turn or gets out of hand, you get one warning. If it happens again, you're gonna get asked to leave. Everybody's here for a purpose. Either to oppose it or go for it. So I hope everybody will respect the other people that are here and do it that way. Everybody that signed up is going to get their chance to talk. 3 minutes, 4 at the max. After everybody's talked, then we will let Dakota make their comments. So everybody understand that? Good. Okay, I call this meeting to order. First on the list is to speak is Nathan Pesta.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Pesta. In the past 22 years, I have specialized in the design and permitting of livestock facility as an agricultural engineer with Kehan Graves and Associates. Tonight, I present a state-of-the-art gestation and farrowing operation for 6,500 cows, housed in 2 proposed barns. The gestation facility features group housing with the latest electronic sow feeding technology, promoting animal welfare and operational precision. The farrowing barn incorporates yield development and is engineered for optimal health and productivity. This design marks a significant evolution from the original proposal at this site nearly 18 years ago, which relied on open-air manure storage ponds. By transitioning to a fully enclosed underground concrete pit, we achieve a vast reduction in odor, far superior to open storage ponds in the previous design. Whereas the pit storage eliminates exposure to the external weather extremes. In addition, over to the last 18 years, technological improvements to ventilation equipment will maintain precise climate control, enhancing respiratory health and reducing airborne pathogens. The concrete pits beneath the barns are designed to Midwestern Pine Service 36 and ACI 30 structural codes. Pits are designed for up to 16 months of manure storage with a proactive drain tile leak detection monitoring system around the foundation of the pit, providing real-time integrity assurance. We help develop a rigorous nutrient management plan with over 2,500 acres of low phosphorus cropland. The soil is receiving the organic fertilizer on a 3-year rotation at agronomic rates will improve soil health by increasing organic matter, water holding capacity, and soil fertility. The nutrient management plan governs every application, which includes setback distances to waterways with manure and soil tests used to determine application rates that are appropriate for the crop. The design for site hydrology prevents off-site stormwater erosion, while runoff is captured, filtered, and controlled on-site through diversions and a stormwater basin. This facility represents the highest standards of environmental stewardship, regulatory compliance, and technological innovation. I welcome your questions and look forward to earning your approval.
Next, Judy Ziegler. Give us a little bit.
Thank you. First off, I would say that I'm opposed to this particular operation. For all the reasons that have been presented by others. But I am a concerned neighbor living 2.5 miles northeast of this proposed hog operation. And that is as the crow flies and the wind blows 2.5 miles. I also need to say that I am a granddaughter of immigrant grandparents who homesteaded in Zion Township, Powder County, and Union Township in Pierce County, just west of Hurricane Lake. I grew up with the relatives of our grandparents searching for and having sustained water wells on their homesteaded land. A well was survival and the ability to make it on the prairie. Water wells and farms and farming, we all have our stories. My story is, on our farm, we had a shallow 30-foot well. It was good water, slow but sustainable. Many wells, our grandparents and later generations had salt and mineral content. It was good for cattle but not necessarily for drinking or cooking. During the 1930s drought years, our farm's shallow 30-foot well did not go dry, as many others did. Our neighbors, also fellow homesteaders and their families, came to our farm with a 5-gallon container, often a green can, to fill with water from this well. It was needed for cooking, drinking water, and coffee. Coffee being an important item as a daily drink for all of the various families in the community. Several folks in this room had parents and grandparents that came to our well to get water. This 30-foot well is what I grew up with. There was always careful rationing of this water and was used as necessary. No wasting, and always with thoughtful consideration. This is the well we continue to use until rural water became an option on our farm and neighboring farms. What a major relief to have this option for accessible water. No more rationing for family use. My grandkids even had a chance to run through a sprinkler. So now the issue at hand. At our first meeting, the all seasons water users indicated that this operation needed 30,000 to 40,000 gallons a day. I'm repeating that, 30 and 40,000 gallons a day. Also at this meeting, it was said that All Seasons was getting their water from Rugby Treatment Plant and has a distribution amount of 360 gallons a day. And presently they have reached or extended that limit when local farmers were spraying. And I want to repeat that. The emphasis in the last statement was that it was local farmers that were using the extra water, as opposed to an out-of-state corporation. So with this, I repeat, All Seasons has reached their limit of 360,000 gallons a day, and they plan to provide this hog operations with 40,000 gallons a day. Doing the math, All Seasons, they don't have these 40,000 gallons to provide yet, of course, but pressure to attain that from Rugby was discussed. At both meetings, and at what cost? Those on rural water have not been asked, and I'm guessing they may not be needed, I don't know.
And I hate to interrupt, but we haven't told us 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
4 minutes.
Okay, I started by speaking for the importance of water for the homesteading families and their experiences in serving the drought in the 30s. Could this happen again? Do not know, and we have to look for a case example. Western North Dakota is experiencing extreme drought for several years. Fires are certainly verify that. So coming back to my initial concern about those of us in rural water, can we stand adverse drought conditions?
I'm sorry, but we're not gonna have time to do all of that.
Okay, I'm
Never gonna
the
get
last
that.
paragraph.
We're
My
past the
last
time.
question is, would this even be a reality for us for local water users if this one out-of-state corporation entity, Dakota SAO, is hogging all of our rural water?
We have to limit this, because otherwise we're never gonna get out of here. So, sorry, but that's how it is, and I'm gonna interrupt when we get past. You're gonna get 3 minutes. If you go over that by a little bit, that's fine, we'll allow a little bit, otherwise I'm gonna step in and ask it to be done. So, next one on the list is Lisa. That's. Well, my pronunciation is not very well, but I apologize.
Works when he sees it.
I'm Lisa Pagashnik, and I think we need to go back to a very short speech that was made by Artling, who was our governor, in 1973, and that's when the landscape is quiet again. We do not want to halt progress. We do not plan to be selfish and say North Dakota will not share its energy resource. No, we simply want to ensure the most efficient and environmentally sound method of utilizing our precious coal and water resources for the benefit of the broadest number of people possible. And when we are through with that, and the landscape was quiet again, when the drag lines, the blasting rigs, power shovels, and the huge gondolas cease to rip and roar, and when the last bulldozer has pushed the last soil pile into place, and the last patch of barren earth has been seeded to grass or grain, let those who follow and repopulate the land be able to say, our grandparents did our job well. The land is as good, and in some cases better than before. Only if they can say this will we be worthy of the rich heritage of the land and its resources. The difference between this speech 52 years ago by outside interests that wanted to sacrifice the state of North Dakota for our energy prices is that we cannot reclaim the land once it has been contaminated, the water and the soil has been contaminated. There's no way to remediate that. So we are not leaving the land for our ancestors, for our children and grandchildren to continue to be here.
David Black.
Please take I'm the director of the Department of Environmental Quality. Thank you for on me speak this morning. This process is like the 3-step process, and I really feel for what you guys are going through, because I know that you get the comments, some of them manufactured, some of them have a threaded truth, and some not manufactured. And as you go through this process, which is an extremely important process, looking at the nature, scope, and location. And what is it? How big is it? And where is it going to go on the land? That's your job. But it does begin, once, if a operation is approved, we get involved. We go through a similar type process. We look at the design, we look at the operation, we look at how they handle the data targets, how they do the nutrient management, have all of that put together, go to a public hearing comment process to get input, where we get the same type of comments where, what about the water, what about the air, what about the land? We do that. Once we go through that process, if it gets approved, it's not going to be the list. Then we make sure that they comply. We do annual inspections. We make sure that they comply with the intent of the permit, we follow up on complaints, making sure that the environment is protected. We continue to stay involved until that operation goes away. And that's what our job is. That's if we get to that point, you as a county commission can hold our feet to the fire as well. I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you would have. I understand there are a lot more people that can provide testimony, but I will hang around for a few.
Tamara Hines.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Tamara Hines. I am the North Dakota Public Council State Executive Director. This is a position I've held for around 12 years. My North Dakota MLA roots run deep as a part of a 4th generation ranch, soon to be 5th, and one that has had to expand and adapt to involve the next generation. I didn't sign up to speak last Thursday, and I regretted that decision. After listening to the conversations, I felt like I let down the big farmers in North Dakota that I represent because I wasn't standing up for them. But I wanted to respect the process because I didn't sign up and let that go. There are points that I want to clarify on behalf of North Dakota pig farmers, both big and small. The first thing I would like to point out is the Department of Environmental Quality in our state is very thorough. Most states, permits take only 30 days. In our state, it takes about 6 months or 180 days, and sometimes it's up to a year. They double check, triple check, and quadruple check. And I just want people to know that they are very, very thorough. Also, I want people to understand, I want the commission to understand that the manure storage that's going to be in this type of barn is a deep pit containment system. It is not a lagoon. A deep pit containment system is very similar to the same septic system that you probably use at your own house. This is newer technology. The newer barns in North Dakota have them. It hasn't always been the case, but it is now, and I want to assure you that offers better odor control than a lagoon does. And we've seen great success with that. And if you have any more questions about that, you can also ask me about those. Manure application, it is regulated. Application on frozen or snow covered ground or water saturated ground is prohibited. And if you wonder if DEQ is monitoring things, I can give you the names and numbers of around 15 large CAFO pig operations in North Dakota that will tell you that they are kept on by the Department of Environmental Quality and their staff. The DEQ monitors manure application through soil sampling, and they work in the farms, work with an agronomist to make the appropriate applications. Manure application is a core practice of regenerative agriculture, which is something we truly support. We support this practice because of the cycling of nutrients and the increase of soil organic matter. Many rules that are followed are also regulations that are set by the federal government through the Environmental Protection Agency that we are required to follow. Labor issues. I don't have to tell anyone here that they are prevalent at ag and especially in rural North Dakota. And like the crop farmers, we heavily utilize H-2A visas and TN visas and other visas with foreign workers to help work. On pig farms, we know that we are not allowed to use these visas if they're not, we first have to prove that we are unable to obtain local workers before we can use these workers. One of our board members came here on a J1 visa. He was later granted his green card, and he and his family live in the very community that they work in and have for around 10 years. I have been lucky to work with many barn employees in my 12 years, many who donate their time, vacation days, and such to serve our industry in multiple ways, from helping out at consumer events, as well as serving as delegates for our National Pork Forum, which is our national annual meeting mandated by USDA. Animal agriculture can be a useful tool in expanding farms to bring in the next generation. It takes farms of all sizes and scale to grow animal agriculture in our state. I know that much has been said about the economics about this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
And I just want to encourage the board to pass this based on the size, nature, and scope contingent on approved animal feeding operation permit by the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions. Okay.
Okay, the next one is James Gibbons.
Yeah. Not really sure what I should say, but you talk about, Bruce and I have a legacy farm that's been in St. Gibbons family for over 140 years, and we haven't had any problems in the last 20 years with that. Contamination of wells or anything like that. The health department has monitored everything, and it's really a non-event to it isn't. We're doing okay, fine with that stuff. That being said, I'm obviously supportive of some of the land where they're to some of them to do that. And I think they'll do a good job. What they're doing, and I'm envious of the barn that they're designed here. It's way better than we have to about the exit. That being said, I'm supportive that. I won't take up any more of your time.
Brooks, the ball.
I won't take up much of your time either. I just wanted to speak since I didn't have the first meeting in second one. And Mitch and I talked a bit about these barns, and I think it's gonna be a good cause for North Dakota's based on egg. And a lot of us farm around here should be an economic benefit, I would think. I do understand some of the opposition being working. But still think as long as they follow all the guidelines that North Dakota has for its permitting process, I don't see why we shouldn't support it and pass this. But it's final, not much more to say, just supporting what they have.
Hayden Larson.
Dean Larson, fourth generation rancher farmer in Cando County. Recently moved to Ramsey County, 3.5 miles straight east of the Dakota Country Supply Operation, 10 farms there. I don't ever have any sort of, we have neighbors now, new ownership. I did some work in Iowa this last year, got to know people that work very closely with Summit. Hands down, second to none, most professional. They don't cut corners, and the people they work for in their company that takes care of everybody first before themselves. And I believe, I mean, we're here, we know it's tough and ag, and agriculture is the way to keep younger people back in their communities. Lots of jobs can be created out of this, and I think it's a good thing for the community. It's small, so.
Casey Dreggy.
Wasn't quite sure about this time limit, so I'll try to keep this a little shorter than originally planned, so they don't have quite enough comments for you guys, but I'll direct to some of the necessary. So, Casey Gray, I'm an attorney with Onstead Twitchell in West Fargo, only representing the North Dakota Farm Bureau. The Bureau aims to, ensure that farmers and ranchers are, able to thrive in this state. And so they do have an interest in this decision tonight. And they also felt compelled to present this case to you guys as well, since a case that has nearly an identical fact pattern to what we're considering here tonight. The main issue under this case was a setback issue, and I understand that was potentially the issue, whether the zoning of Hurricane Lake was agricultural in nature or recreation. In this case, the court concluded that although the land in question was had recreational use permitted, it was zoned as agricultural, and that was the proper measure. So I know we have a setback issue here as to whether you go off the agricultural zoning length or if you go off of the regional length. And as the court clearly states on page 5 and page 6, this case is pretty boring, but I will draw your attention to paragraph 15. In this case, the township used the campground to measure the setback distance for the proposed animal farm operation. The campground did not include an amount by residents or building used for non-farm or non-food purposes. It was also not located on land zone for residential recreation or commercial purposes. All the land in the township was zoned for agriculture. Just above paragraph 16, the campground was located on land in agricultural zoning district. Although the township ordinances permitted recreational use for land zoned for agriculture, the land was not zoned for these purposes. Down to paragraph 17, and it restates the land was zoned for agricultural purposes. None of the conditions under North Dakota Century Code section 58 were met, which would allow the township to regulate the location of the proposed animal farm operation by measuring the setbacks from the camp. We concluded the township misinterpreted and misapplied the law by denying Brian Prairie's petition for approval of the proposed AFO site. We would expect that any denial of this permit based on the setback issue would be met with the same conclusion that the Supreme Court came to, and that the setback must be based off of how the land is zoned, not whether or not there's recreational use. I have just a few seconds left, so I want to additionally address some of the other issues that I was thinking about as far as water contamination, air contamination. Like others have said, there are regulatory agencies which monitor those things. Preemptive denial of this permit would very likely be met with the same conclusion in a court, that it's impermissible to deny a permit based on that. So it looks like that's my time. Thank you, council, appreciate it.
Janelle Ingstrom.
I have two letters here. Again, one is from the city of Leeds. The city of Leeds grants Janelle Engstrom permission to read the following letter on behalf of the city of Leeds. Dear members of the Pierce County Commissioners, I, Nick Parcel, Mayor of the city of Leeds, along with the Leeds City Council, wish to express our concerns regarding the proposed hog farm in Pierce County. The city of Leeds is located downstream of Hurricane Lake, the proposed city site of the hog farm. We are deeply concerned about the potential environmental impacts this facility may have on our water system, particularly regarding runoff and water quality. Additionally, we understand that rural water, which sells water to the city of Rugby for this project, draws from the same aquifer that supplies the city of Leeds. This raises concerns about availability and sustainability of water resources for our community. Ensuring a safe and adequate water supply for our residents is of utmost concern to us. We respectfully urge the Pierce County Commissioners to carefully evaluate these issues and consider the downstream and regional impacts this proposed development could have on surrounding communities. Thank you for your time and consideration for our concerns. We appreciate your attention to this matter and look forward to continued collaboration to protect the health and well-being of our shared environment. The City Council of Leeds unanimously opposes the proposed hog farm project. Sincerely, Nick Parcel, Mayor of the City of Leeds. The second letter is from Dennis Sextus, President of Sextus Tacula Bison Ranch. To whom it may concern. As I am unable to attend the meeting regarding the hog barns, I have asked Jan Engstrom to read this regarding my concerns. My name is Dennis Sextus, and I am a partner in Sextus Tacula Bison Ranch. We operate a feedlot in southern Towner County and have done so continuously since 1993. It started as a relatively small operation and over the years has grown to a 3,500 capacity feedlot operated under the approval of the state of North Dakota. One of the things that allowed us to grow to this level was the availability of rural water. My primary concern regarding this project is that it will take away from available water in our feedlot. Over the past 2 years, particularly in the summer months, we have seen a notable decline in water pressure and therefore water availability for our operation. Typically, water pressure on the line of our operation is 80 to 85 pounds, and the past couple of years it often drops to 60 pounds or less. This forces us to bring 3 old wells into operation this past summer, and I am concerned that a large water user such as the hog barns being added to the system will further reduce availability of water for us. Although we are quite remote from the proposed project, I sympathize with and support the people who are concerned about the environmental impacts. All right, thank you.
Guy Larson.
Hello, my name is Guy Larson, and I farm southeast of the proposed spot facility. My parents and my son and his family have the two closest farmsteads to it, and I'm concerned with the future of my family, North Dakota, and our American freedom so many have fought and died for that. As a father and grandfather, I have the responsibility to look after the welfare of my family. They depend on me to protect them and stand in the gap for them. If an intruder or thief comes to harm them, I have the duty to protect them. You likewise, as elected commissioners of the town, have the duty to protect the citizens you are responsible for. These jobs aren't always easy, but we are required to do them to the best of our ability, regardless of the consequence. If we don't, we will. I am here to tell you that an intruder is here. They may appear to be local by saying they are Dakota SAO. They are not local. They are Summit Ag, a huge corporation trying to sneak under our corporate ag laws. North Dakota has had corporate ag laws that were put in effect in 1932 to prevent large out-of-state corporations from driving out family farms. They felt the corporations were a threat to family farming in rural communities, and North Dakota's told them. Recently, in the past few years, House bills have weakened the corporate ag laws that were once able to protect our family farming. These bills have put holes in the fence that once kept the corporate wolves out of North Dakota. They need to be repealed as well. We still do have some requirements that these corporations and LLCs must follow. This is from the North Dakota Century Code Amendment, and I paraphrase them to go quickly here. The following requirements apply. If an authorized livestock farm or LLC or corporation may not have more than 10 shareholders or members, all members must be citizens of the United States. The Dakota SAO has 18 investors according to their license. Dakota SAO 2, I was told, has 11 investors. Last I checked, 18 and 11 are both more than 10. Are they all U.S. citizens or are they foreign investors? We don't know because we can't find a list. They appear to be in violation of the statute. And also another statute is that they're required to build within a year of acquiring land use for agriculture. Dakota SAO owns this land and it's had over a year to start construction on it. They purchased it in June of 2024. They're in violation of this statute as well. According to the overview you received from Dakota SAO and Dakota SAO 2 are sponsored by Summit Ag. Summit Ag Management LLC also just filed with the Secretary of State. No matter how they structure it, make no mistake, this facility is corporately owned by Summit Agricultural Group. Eric Peterson, the president and chief operating officer, signed as representative for all these companies. Is this the future we want for North Dakota? Corporations like this have devoured Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, and are now treating with attempts to devour the landscape of North Dakota. Big government and big ag are trying to take away the power of our local authorities. House Bill 2174 was passed last year, further limiting the power of the townships and the county governments. It doesn't go into effect until August of 2026. Now is the time to take a stand against it. We are a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. It is a government from the bottom up, not the top down. You need reasons to deny this, so I'm going to make it easy and give you a list of them. First, they're in violation of some of our corporate ag laws. My son will further expound on this later. Last I knew the hydrology study wasn't even completed. So it would be irresponsible to permit this facility without it. Rural water is put in for the residents and their livestock, not for commercial purposes like a K-4. The people's water should not be jeopardized to water a bunch of hogs for out-of-state investors. So say no. Third, the Planning and Zoning Board has already unanimously denied this permit. Fourth, the Hurricane Lake Wildlife Refuge and Wildlife Production Area is set aside for wildlife and recreation purposes. It would be redundant for it to be zoned recreational as it was established in 1958 for the purposes of wildlife conservation and recreation. It is already set aside for this purpose by the government. It falls within the 1 mile setback, so the facility cannot be permitted. Fifth, we have repeatedly presented documented evidence that this facility poses a health threat to the residents living in close proximity. Remember,
Your time is up. I know, it's just,
yeah, I know my wife finished it, and the last part I have two parts of
I
it.
think she's on there, yeah.
She is.
There we go. Lincoln Larson is next.
You don't know things I've been this subject in the way they decided to get past. People in North Dakota and a lot of North Dakota. Please look at the information I'm about to share and decide if the principles are consistent with those ones. Dakota SAO two LLP is applying for this permit through Pierce County. Okay, so LLP is limited liability partner, which you already know. Well, you might not be so familiar with is the Dakota Century Code for limited liability partnership. I know I wasn't in the always in text. Please see the copy of the North Dakota Century Code, chapter 45-22. The big document you got here. It's a 21-page document that under normal circumstances would be quite equal and read. However, it is an extremely important document. Please see page 4 of this document. I have highlighted in there. Part 1, the registration of an LLP. A partnership may become a limited liability partnership pursuant to this section. It goes on. Maybe this section. Okay. So, part 3 there. Under registration, I could go through all the brief and all, but I guess maybe on like 3 and point 6, we can give it 5. These are the things that they must be signed by the managing partner in order to register an LLP. A statement indicating whether the limited liability partnership will be engaged in farming or ranching in this state, or owning or leasing land in this state, which is used for farming or ranching. Part 6 on page 5. They must include the name and address of each managing partner, and if the limited liability partnership will be engaged in farming or ranching in this state, or owning or leasing land in this state, which is used for farming or ranching, then the name and addresses of all partners. Okay, well, wouldn't it be nice to know who all the partners are? So I was looking into that. Okay. This is where it gets interesting. Maybe we should check to see, make sure there's not many partners, or make sure that partners aren't from like Brazil, the country that someone works with. When I looked for the name and addresses of all the partners, I found only one name that the Secretary of State has. Eric Peterson, managing partner and also president and chief operating officer of Summit Ag Group. Why is this the only partner's name available from the Secretary of State? I also called them today and I had a recorded conversation with the office of the Secretary of State. I could show you one. Which goes under this there. The public records group will bring up this document, that 1-page document you got there. Please note, this is the filing from Dakota SAO to LLP. Note the nature of the business is to own agriculture, real estate, and construct and operate livestock feeding facilities. Well, that seems okay. I mean, after all, it's primarily store and animal feeding operation. Now look just below that, the partners section. This is where we should find all the other partners' names and addresses. Here, they have the farm and ranch statement instead. This partnership says, will not be engaged in farming or ranching in North Dakota, and will not be owning or leasing land in North Dakota, which is used for farming or ranching. Does that make sense? That seems to be the very thing they're planning to do with obtaining this permit. Why would they make this apparent false statement on a government document? They are apparently trying to hide who their partners are. They are hoping that North Dakotans don't look into it and check the legality of their operation. With this information, Dakota SAO should not be able to obtain a permit for this animal feeding operation. In fact, they shouldn't even be able to apply for the permit in the first place. If you, as a county, approve the permit knowing this information, you are complicit with any legal issues related to the obtaining of said permit. To me, this is a clear effort by Dakota SAO and their many stories on their organizations. I just have 2 sentences. There are many father organizations to hide the investors and partners with this organization. If they themselves claim they will not farm or ranch, let's make sure they don't farm ranch. Thank you.
Katie Larson. I'm sorry, but.
I would just interview for him if he didn't get through his.
Oh. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Bodine.
Committee, Mr. Chairman, members, directors, lead on your own cafe, Commissioner Dudley. One of the things that I was just passing out, it just shows the inventory of the animal numbers in our state. One of the challenges we have is we do a tremendous job of controlling crops in our state. But when it comes to animal agriculture, we're one of the few, or last in the country as far as the value of animal agriculture. As you can see on the bottom figure, the state of Iowa has close to 25 million hogs in their state. The reason why we're not mentioned on that is because we're below the mass statistics as far as being able to even report how many hogs we have in each state. So we have less than 500,000 hogs statewide in our state. One of the things I want to compliment you about is you guys went through a site analysis put on by Region 6, United Search Basin Regional Council. One of the things in that site analysis is the location, which is suitable for animal agriculture. This particular site was chosen, identified on that to be able to meet the criteria of the site analysis. One of the things when you look at animal agriculture, you want location to be the key, and this site is sufficient to meet all the standards that you have in your zoning and also at the state level. I know it's been mentioned about the WPA. It's just visiting with Mr. Blatt with the environmental quality. That does not recognize this recreation area, so that can be a part of the site analysis with setback requirements. We need animals in this state. Everything we grow in this state is, whether it's corn, soybeans, goes into feed and fuel for our nation. We try to get plants to have processing in the state. One of the things that they talk about when we look at bison, the soy plant, crush plant down in Bearwood, also over the one in Castleton, they're saying, where does our animals be able to have it still a grains go to? So we, as a grain farmer, receive a discount in our crop because they have to discount our grain to be able to process it within the state. We need animal agriculture that complement each other, and with this site, it is ideal for all. So I thank you for your time and appreciate your service. This is one of the situations where the commissioner knows exactly where you sit, because the public wants one way or another, but I would go to the law, which that leads every decision you have to make. Out of the department, we don't have a choice where we can meet standards. They are automatically or granted a license or a permit for every program in the state. So I appreciate your time, and we look forward to this facility being able to be perfect.
Amber Woods.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amber Wood. I'm the Executive Director of the North Dakota Livestock Alliance. The North Dakota Livestock Alliance represents a broad range of North Dakota's agriculture community. The elected board of directors is the North Dakota Pork Council, North Dakota Corn Utilization Council, ND Farmers Union, Midwest Dairy, North Dakota Division, ND Corn Growers, the North Dakota Soybean Council, North Dakota Farm Bureau, Agricultural Cooperative, and the North Dakota Ethanol Council. We work with all species of animal agriculture and all herd sizes. Since NDLA's founding in 2017, we have worked with 5 new hog barns that have been successfully permitted and are operating across the state. As a former dairy herd manager, I am honored to continue my career in North Dakota animal agriculture by representing the North Dakota Livestock Alliance. There have been a lot of questions regarding the cost of infrastructure update needs, especially regarding rural water. There are 2 major tools available to assist with the cost of infrastructure upgrades available in North Dakota communities that have new or expanding animal agriculture facilities. The first of which is the Ag Infrastructure Grant Program conducted by the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. Quoted from the program website, the Agriculture Infrastructure Grant
was established to award grants to a county, township, or a city with a population of 1,500 residents or less for roadway and bridge improvements, and to political subdivisions or entities for utility improvements necessary to accommodate value-added agricultural businesses. Grant funding falls under two categories: road and bridge improvements and utility improvements, including water and wastewater line improvements and electrical and gas supply improvements necessary to accommodate value-added agricultural business. The second is a bill that passed the most recent legislative session titled Senate Bill 2177. We learned that the bill creates what is commonly nicknamed a tax bounce back program to direct certain state taxes collected from new or expanding animal agriculture and bounces it back to the county. I actually have the bill language here, so I'll get as far as I can before I run out of my 3 minutes. It's stimulating stuff. Under section 3, subsection 4 of the bill, the amount certified by the tax commissioner for each county is the sum of the state portion of sales, gross receipts, and use tax under this title on eligible tangible personal property purchased to construct new or to expand, upgrade, or replace existing animal and agriculture facilities located in the county. Under section 3, part 3, once per year, the state treasurer shall distribute to each county the amount certified by the tax commissioner under subsection 4. If the amount certified for a year exceeds $500,000, the state treasurer shall distribute the funding on a prorated basis. Senator Paul Thomas is present here today. I will defer any questions specific to this program to him as he was on the bill. Okay, in closing, we agree that this application be approved contingent upon Dakota SAO's compliance with NBDEQ Water Quality's extensive permitting process as is directed by law. I have flyers that outline the grant program, and I have the grant guidelines for your staff as well, and I printed out copies of the bill. Okay, thank you. I'll take any questions. All right, thanks for your time, everybody.
Next is Brian Dean.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Brian Dean, that's I've been over in North Dakota. I'm a owner of Cando and Cando and Grain Ranch. I sit on the board of the North Dakota Farm Growers Association, District 3, which encompasses Pierce County. The North Dakota Farm Growers have been in support of animal production here in the state of North Dakota. Not only do we are happy with the amount that a new hog facility would consume, but that's pretty self-explanatory. It's when we go over the area of Pierce County that generally would not pay a basis to send their grains out of state, much of which would be consumed right here a lot closer and be very economically feasible for the farmers in the area. The other thing is, once the farm gains come up, we also, many of us practice regenerative ag of the soils. We prefer, some of us prefer to use natural manure to regenerate the soil, to make a healthier soil, not an unhealthy soil, a healthier soil that is made by commercial fertilizer. The use of manure is highly regulated by the state. The use of commercial fertilizers is not, which I believe obviously makes it a safer use for the people here in the state of North Dakota. With that, I will give it support. Thank you for your time.
Jay Ricky.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity here. 27 hours ago, I was going to say something different to say right now. Yesterday afternoon, I met with Mitch and with Cam from Pinnacle, and that had a powerful impact on me. If Pierce County wanted to get into a big farm, these are the people we would want to work with. I was really impressed with the fact they're deeply committed to the community, farmers, the ranchers, the agriculture. I was blown away. And when I thought about out of state corporation, what is this? Cando has 12 employees. And their efforts to work with pig farms in Minnesota and Iowa are to help give them guidance. Some of it is designed to help farmers get their corn with the ethanol plants. That's one of the things they do. And the whole CO2 thing was to make sure that farmers had an opportunity to keep their corn, income for their corn. I was really impressed. When I began asking specific questions, one of the things that I did not know, I said, okay, why do you want a big farm in North Dakota? And they said, this is going to be a breeding farm. Their primary goal here is to breed female pigs that will then be shipped to the other and pig production facilities because they want it removed in order to provide that kind of bioprotection, minimize diseases. It's not they want to build another plant, another one, and another, and another. They want this isolated. The males, of course, will go on and will be going to production better. That was helpful. It was helpful also to hear that instead of having lagoons, as I've seen in some of the research I've done, all the excrement will drop below the pigs. That'll all be roofed. It will not raise when there's a rain. It won't get impacted by rain. And they have 16 months of that they can control in case they can't spread manure in fall or in spring. I also did some research from Iowa State University about the value of manure benefit of the soil. It's good for the soil. I was surprised at just how interested they are in the community and in the farmers and in benefiting them. I was in favor, as I would not have had I not met these men and seen their commitment to agriculture and the animals. So I would ask you to vote for this.
John Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. The role that I'm playing here, I attended the zoning committee meetings, the last two, and there were a number of questions about water supply and the potential contamination of the aquifer. I provided to you in your packet information from a map of the Pleasant Lake Aquifer, which the city of Rugby draws from. As you can see, that aquifer is 2 townships away from this site. And it's in a closed basin, so there's no contamination issues that I can even imagine within the aquifer. You also have a document from the Department of Water Resources as far as the availability of water. As you can see, it's about 11% increase over the current use, well within the permitted acreage of the city of Rugby. It should not and will not affect the city of Leeds' water permit. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that from a factual basis, that water is not, the availability of water is not the issue. Yes, there are some details that need to be worked out between All Seasons Water and the city of Rugby and the owners of the barn, because we can't, as a rural water system, we have to ensure that the flows that are now available to the current residents are not diminished. So that's where that additional infrastructure would be needed, and the hydraulic study that was mentioned earlier, it needs to be completed in the fashion to supply the water that they desire. That may include more than just upgrading pipelines. It may include more storage on site, and that's the types of things that just isn't available yet. I was hoping that would be available for this meeting, but and I also just wanted to I invited Mr. Glott Mr. Bodine from the state to come here to answer questions from a factual basis and not an emotional basis. So that was my role, and I hope that was the way you accepted my testimony tonight. I think this would be a good project for the whole region, and I hope you support it.
Lonnie Anderson.
Good evening, Lonnie Anderson. I sit on the planning and zoning board. And me and one other fellow have been on this board for 20 years. Wayne Stevenson was the tax director at that time. He and I had the opportunity to go to Castleton, North Dakota for a hog swine farm seminar training. And we did. We sat there all afternoon. I think it was like midnight when we got home, but anyway, we learned a lot of things. One thing that I did learn, I wanted to talk to the guy that applied the fertilizer. And he told us we use a drag hose. About so big. And I said, variable rate, however, whatever the salt samples and whatever it is, that's what we go by. I said, tell me what it is when we have a bad day. When the hose breaks, he says, it's a mess clean up to your knees. And with those setbacks, Carolyn, you're gonna have less acres, tillable land on both sides of your ditch than what you're farming today. The other thing, water runs downhill. The city of the Devil's Lake and the reservation down there will not let this happen. If you have a bad day, you may lose your 140-year-old farm. And I know both of you guys, and I know Carla and Brooks. I know you guys. Careful what you wish for. Good government is made by the people, for the people, and by the people. And do you guys know who said that? Abraham Lincoln.
Bodine, you're on here twice. You already spoken. Yeah, okay. Paul Thomas.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of this night. Thank you for your time and most gracious your service to the citizens there as well. I own and operate a fourth generation farm. I farm with my fifth generation son in Pearl County, Dakota. I also serve in the North Dakota Senate from the North Dakota House. One of the reasons I chose to serve was because of my love for agriculture, my love for the rural Class B communities, my love for the communities that we have here. The thing I have seen over time in our family farm has been going from small to now what would be deemed quite large in size. I think of the same thing if we didn't have large farms in our state, but rather we had large animal ag operations, like throughout our entire country, because that's what food production is. That's where we get our pork chops, our bacon, our pork loins, all of that. If we came in here and somebody was coming to propose a 10,000 acre grain farm, and all of us were farming 200-300 acres, we'd have the same shock and awe. But the standards are already in place. We're keeping these facilities safe. They've been proven over time. They're all throughout the United States. We have to trust our science. We have to trust our regulations that are put in place. We have to trust the amount of time and energy that has been put into this by people that do care about the environment, that do care about our communities. These facilities are not here to pollute the environment. They care for the environment, just like we do as landowners. The other thing I wanted to quickly touch on was we as a state legislature have really done everything we can so far in my time there to try and put things in place, help the counties, help municipalities to welcome animal agriculture. There's funds available to help build out roads, build water infrastructure, bring in power to these facilities. That doesn't go to these facilities, it comes to the county government, the rural water, the electric co-ops. It helps fund local infrastructure. We also have put in place the ability for any tax that's collected by the state to build these new facilities. That tax, the tax for it is given back to you as the county, and you can share that with the shed. And you can go beyond your $500,000 caps, and you can keep it in there for maintenance of the roads or maintenance of whatever needs to happen. The state is here to partner with you with these animal aid facilities, and we want to see it happen. So I urge you to look at the science, look at the history of these facilities, and I urge you to support.
Maggie Tuffy.
I still remember about probably 20 minutes ago was gonna say something different, but you hear all these about the state will watch over and check over everything. Well, a few years back, I was buying feed from a particular elevator, some pellets for my horses. And I was having issues, some of the horses were colicking and getting sick and everything, and so you go out to your community on Facebook, and you talk to people about it. And another lady, a friend of mine from Devil's Lake, or Eastern Devil's Lake, is having issues too. She had her feed tested, she got it from the same place as me. It had urea, Louisa, I remember there's something else in it. Horses do not have any of those items. She lost a lot of animals. I would have been better if I would have lost them, but many of them got lost in the air. So we both kind of kept it, she tried a lawsuit that personal vets will go up against the state or anything, and or against the elevator or whatever. And so we just kind of kept an eye on it, called the Department of Ag, and one day I called them, and they said, yeah, we tested them. One sample came back good, and the other didn't. And I said, well, did you contact the people that bought the feed? Well, yeah, they had, or no, they hadn't sold any of the feed. The guy told me he hadn't sold any. I thought to myself, I called the lawyer now. So I spent hours. I called all over the place. Out of place, who sent somebody to buy the feed in Bismarck that had that lot number on it. And then I called the Department of Ag back. I was on a phone call with 3 of them, and I said, when are you guys gonna do something? And the sad part of it is, and then they did a recall then because of that. But the sad part of it is, nothing happens. This guy just gets his hand slapped a little bit. Because our state does not have any good rules to punish the people that are doing things like that. So it's the same thing that happened with this when they contaminate the land. And well, we slap your fingers this time, we'll do it again. It's the same thing that happened. I guess I have a little time left. What I was gonna say, I grew up, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 miles from a pig farm. And yeah, it stunk. Also, I had a turkey farm to the west. But about a mile was not the worst. And I understand one of the ways to get rid of the pigs from the last meeting is to incinerate them. Was when that pig farm burnt. That was worse than the pigs. It was horrible. So you're gonna be incinerating all these piggies every however often. Thank you for your time.
Steve Friddle.
Good evening. Lifelong resident of Pierce County. I came here this evening just to listen. I didn't know if I was gonna say anything or not, and I guess I am. I've heard a lot of factual things tonight, things that I was thinking of. I know people in southern Minnesota and Iowa, hog facilities are very common there. The fertilizer, the nutrients is very valuable. You can't minimize that. It was talked about animal production in North Dakota. We're very good at raising crops. But if we want a soybean crushing plant or a corn facility to make animal feed or other products. So the oil, for example, soybean oil, there's demand for that. What do you do with the meal? You need a facility that can use that for feed. Right now in North Dakota, there's no soybean crushing plants to speak of. Southeast corner of the state does. But it's because there's no place to go with the meal. So I guess the gist of everything that's been talked about, things that I've heard here recently is how many times can this community say no to an opportunity? If you keep saying no, pretty soon no one will come knocking at the door. And I think we all want this community to grow. And I think this is definitely a way to grow. It was said, listen to the facts, not the emotion. I think this is an opportunity. Thank you.
Anita Larson.
Miranda Larson, I was white. Finished up on what the was reading. This point is being made for the third time tonight. We're the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Is a government from the bottom up, which here, not the top down. Number one, is Mr. Nelson confirmed? A hydrology study has not yet been completed. It would be irresponsible to permit this facility without it. Rural water was put in for the residents and their livestock, not for the commercial purposes like a CAFO. The people's water should not be jeopardized to water a bunch of hogs or bathe them for out-of-state investors. Say no. The planning and zoning board has already unanimously denied this permit. Hurricane Lake National Wildlife Refuge and Wildlife Protection Area is set aside for wildlife and recreational purposes. It would be redundant for it to be zoned recreational as it was established in 1958 for the purposes of wildlife conservation and recreation. It is already set aside for this first purpose by the government. It falls within the 1 mile setback, so this facility cannot be permitted. We have already repeatedly presented documented evidence, the last 2 meetings, for this facility that poses a health threat to residents living in close proximity to it. Remember, we have presented demonstrable evidence that we are at risk. We have done our job. It is now yours to protect our health by voting no to deny it. The manure management plan is flawed. Last meeting, my son documented a ditch that had dumped 3 semi-loads of raw sewage into Hurricane Lake with no setbacks. I have another question on manure management plan. What would happen if we have a year where the ground freezes up before we can apply it? They don't have the capacity to store that sewage till spring. It would have to be applied on the surface and run off right into the Hurricane Lake in our North Dakota waters. My son handed out papers earlier. They're in violation of some of our corporate ag laws that he just expounded on in this paperwork listed by the Secretary of State, Dakota SAO2. Your nature of business, own agricultural, real estate, and construct and operate livestock feeding facilities. Partner says farm ranch statement. This partnership will not be engaged in farming or ranching in North Dakota and will not be owning or leasing land in North Dakota, which is used for farming or ranching. They have nothing to hide. Why are they not listening to their investors? This is found to be conflicting and deceptive. Appreciate everyone of you on the board and for serving in this capacity that looks out for the welfare of the people. I urge you to stand in the gap and deny this permit, protect the people of Pierce County. Thank you.
Renee Allsberg.
I am a homeschool mother of 4, and I live within 3 miles of the proposed facility. I think it comes down to common sense. If you don't want it in your backyard, don't put it in mine. My 4 kids spend most of the day outside. When you homeschool, you mark it on for 8 hours a day. And there aren't just 4 kids, we have 20 kids or plus in that area, right directly southeast of where that proposed site will be. So I'm gonna read what these CAFOs do. The issue of CAFO manure is more than its horrendous stench. The manure is loaded with toxic pollutants such as methane, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, particulate matter, fungi, bacteria, and endotoxins that become airborne. The physical reaction to the toxic chemicals of CAFO manure results in nausea, runny nose, sore eyes, respiratory distress, asthma attacks. Exposure to odors can cause changes in mood. Because of the heavy use of antimicrobials within a CAFO, the bacteria have become antibiotic resistant that can result in harmful life-threatening illnesses, including MRSA and drug-resistant E. coli. I don't want that for my kids. You don't want it for your kids, so don't do it. It's that easy. Keep it local. We don't need the state telling us what to do. I don't trust the state. That's why I homeschool.
Rebecca Vincent, my home is probably within 5 miles of the proposed project. I'm easy to be kids there. My nieces and nephews are living in the area as well. People keep saying, listen to the facts, listen to the facts. There's facts on both sides that you have to listen to. And it's not just about facts either, it's about emotions too. But she said, you don't want it in your backyard, we don't want it in ours. So think about the facts on both sides, because the state has all kinds of things. People talking facts, well, there's facts against it too. And the benefits do not outweigh the risks. So please consider that.
Aaron Esterly.
I want to say, native to the state, I moved here, have a family, and get great. Commercial agriculture. I heard you going.
Aaron Esterly.
Hello, my name is Erin Esterly. I'm not a fifth, I'm not a fourth. I'm a newcomer, 20-year newcomer. My husband and I brought our children here, and we fought like to reclaim the farmstead that was abandoned during the dry years of the 80s. We are dependent on our well. Our rural water line already does not have capacity to support our farmstead. As previously mentioned, water runs downhill, and I'm concerned about our aquifer, as it is supplied by the Hurricane Lake, Urban Lake, and that flows directly into Devil's Lake, and then turns and flows straight up into Canada. The wildlife will be affected by this runoff. Hunting brings a lot of revenue to our communities. You're worried about jobs. You're worried about income, you're talking about money coming in. That doesn't. Our children and our grandchildren will pay the consequences of this decision.
I urge you. Thank you, please, don't know. Thank you.
Bruce Gibbons?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just here to give you a few facts of the neural injection process. I'm one of the founders of the Dakota country's winning targets at Cando. I've been personally involved in managing the manure injection with allocation for over 20 years. I can tell you that we have to work with the health department every year. We have to report every year. We have an agronomist that does grid sampling every year before we apply. The manure is applied according to the test results from the grid sample. The manure is applied according to what those soil samples show, so we don't over apply. We test as we apply, and we supply all the test results to the state health department, and we have to report the application every year to the state health department. And we do not apply on the same land every year. It's a 3 to 5 year rotation that we go in, so we do not overload the soil or anything with the manure. The manure itself is actually a very valuable nutrient. And I can't imagine anybody that would pump that manure out into a lake or something. You can put it underground, be injected underground, and it's utilized by the crops. I would urge you to support this application for the permit, because I think it will only benefit the whole community and the area.
Sam Wagner.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Wagner. I am a representative of the Dakota Resource Council, and we have over 300 household memberships across the state of North Dakota. Some of them actually in this county here, sitting with you today. I'd like to tell you, I've been living on cable work for the past 6 years. I have dealt with the DEQ on multiple occasions. We have hired an independent agronomist, we've hired independent hydrologists to review permits in Abercrombie, Herbert, the Quant Brothers area, KT, Forest River. We've had a lot of dealings with DEQ, and one of the most common things that we get when we are the ones that are reporting some of these spills or some of these issues that we have or discrepancies, we'll listen. There's often the response of, it's not within our purview to do this. When we talk about excess levels of zinc or if there are too many antibodies, we often get a response. It's not within our purview. DEQ, or we're not legally required to do this. I've been through a lot of these hearings and I've seen and heard the same arguments from the industry. You know, we've been looking at it for a long time over the past 6 years. Local control has been strict from townships, from county commissioners such as yourself. And I just want to go over a bit of the things with what happened. Model zoning committee was the first part of this that was established with a bill in 2023. And they also with that established a livestock zoning where they could identify premium sites. When they were looking for the sites, they only had the following criteria. They had whether you had 30,000 gallons a minute of rural water access, you had access to roads that can handle 50,000-pound vehicles or more, and if you had access to basic power. No environmental concerns were put when these sites were deemed good sites or bad sites. At that meeting, the Farm Bureau actually said that no irresponsible person would try to put up a CAFO, and I pointed out to them, you tried to defend a CAFO over in Grand Farms, right close to the lake. Now we're doing it again. You see a Farm Bureau lawyer up here again, trying to state their case for this, actually citing the very case that we had. When I hear about this, I also am a citizen of the city of Castleton. My city has been brought up multiple times in this hearing. We had people that
fought against that plant because they were building it a half mile away from our community. And they said we wouldn't have any sound issues, we wouldn't have any dust issues. Right now, I sit as city council president of the community of Castleton. Guess what my complaints are in public works and policy and ordinance? We have dust, white dust that's coming into our filters right now. And we have people complaining of low humming noises on the south side of our community, right with where it is. And when we asked them, when they came there, they were saying we're gonna be a good neighbor. When I asked the person point blank if I could see the results, and I noticed results, you know what they told me? They told me, we are not legally obligated to give you that. Those same people that came in and told us that we were gonna be a good neighbor, when this previous city council before me voted this in. So anyway, the last thing I want to talk a little bit about is that bill came, model zoning that we currently have today, 2174. Man, Paul Thomason here at this room actually testified in that to try and bring down setback requirements. And we did that. I'm just gonna close with one final statement here. When we talk about how North Dakota needs to have more animal agriculture, we have this much rain, we have this, well, I say to that argument, we have the same, Nevada makes a lot of money off of brothels in their state. And, you know, you have the same percentage of men and women here too. You don't see me advocating to start up brothels here either. And you don't see me saying that if we don't allow these brothels, no one else is gonna come either. Thank you very much for your time.
Eastern Cyber.
No storage. Even if there is enough water, it has been any sort of behavior about that water. We're already running into what they have there. Even above that, it's going to see. So what it comes from that, without having any of those sort of contracts in place, more water. Responsible. A lot of this is this time. There's nothing that needs to be done, but tonight, that is very good.
Now you're on the twice too, so. Jeff Kenner.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. The red number one, I guess that's pretty self-explanatory. The civic code is a location and setback from residential, recreational, and commercial purposes. But I'm going to recap a little bit. Merriam-Webster Dictionary says the word zone has several meanings, primarily referring to an area or region distinguished by a particular characteristic or designated for a specific purpose. Hurricane Lake, WPA, has that specific purpose. It's a waterfall production area, and it's a national wildlife refuge system, a network of land set aside specifically. That's the word for wildlife, managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hurricane Lake. WPA was established November 9th, 1933. And then it was actually became a national wildlife refuge in 1939. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife owns it. It is not taxed. Red number 4 is the map in question. Red number 5 is the signage designated its specific purpose. Let's skip over 6. The Legislative Council definition of agricultural property. Agricultural property means platted or unplatted lands used for raising agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. And it shall continue to be assessed as agricultural property until to a use other than raising agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. This report goes on. The Sioux line sued the state of North Dakota in 1979. Senate Bill 2323, agricultural property means lands which are used for raising agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. Shall not include platted lands. 83 legislature, House Bill 1296, same thing. Just throughout the history of this, it's the same thing. Now, the actual century code, which we all have to go by, even though some of it I don't like, they have to take precedence over all of us. Agricultural property means platted or unplatted lands used for grazing agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. It shall continue to be assessed as agricultural property until put to a use other than raising agricultural crops or grazing farm animals. Hurricane Lake doesn't do that. It's put to a whole different use. And it's right in the century code. And we have to abide by that century code, even though I don't like some of it. On the rep for Onstead Twitchell failed to tell you that we won the lawsuit over the campground zoning by Devil's Lake. Tom Bodine here, the Ag Department, and Doug Doring, when I went to Bismarck, wouldn't talk to me because they said it would be perceived as helping the opposition. But what are they doing? Hurricane Lake is a special place and is not to be polluted. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody had a chance to speak their piece. Now it's time for protest, AO,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is a pleasure to work with you all, and it's a pleasure to hear the feedback from the community. Our application meets and exceeds county and state code regulations related to the conditional use permit. Our mineral management plan is engineered and designed to protect and improve water quality and soil productivity. It's also the NEPQ's authority to approve and audit as an NEP. We have more than enough acres in the plan, but nearly 3 times what would be required. Hearing feedback from the last meetings and planning, we're removing some fields from that plan. Those fields south of Highway 7, 3 fields south of Highway 17, near the Fish and Wildlife property. After the feedback, and we appreciate that. The mineral plan is an ever-living document, and we look forward to having the Department of Environmental Quality review that final plan. Construction is engineered with the latest design standards and ensures the storage integrity. We have over 150% of the states required in our storage capacity designed into the facility. Water use and future demand is out of the scope of the permit application. We're sensitive to the resources of the local community, rural water association and others. We want to ensure we have a viable permit under the site scope and nature before we continue with those resources. We've asked them to and are working with them for that type of geologic study for rural water, and they're working towards that. I'm also apologetic that it's not available for this evening. As we've shared before in other meetings, with construct the site water storage capacity in alignment with that plan to ensure it does not reduce any availability for current flows, with the intent for this to improve the opportunity for others use and flows in the future, specifically rural water. There's significant support for this project and its approval at the county level, and it's evident here tonight, and for many others that are not able to attend tonight. Our existing operations, we can demonstrate the positive economic impact which this facility will also provide. Just in the last 12 months, that operation has contributed nearly 20 million in direct economic benefit, most of which is retained within the local community and state. Feed inputs, significantly amount of them, almost all of them, if they're available in the state of North Dakota, are sources to the feed mill there in Cando. There's nearly $3 million annually in the last 12 months, specific to 6 locally owned businesses in this region. This project will add that additional value there. I ask that you approve the application as it meets the county's requirements of the conditional use and state code, as supported by many of the folks here tonight, in which I believe we fully understand as well. Happy to answer any questions, and ask again from Widow come up and share some more information about the manure management plan and water quality.
Hi, my name is Matthew Barros. I'm with Pinnacle and Iowa Falls, Iowa. We work producers with producers in Iowa and Missouri, helping them stay in compliance with the respective Department of Natural Resources and Department of Ag. There's been a lot of talk about water quality and manure's impact on that. And I handed out a study that summarizes 2 university studies specific to manure's impact on soil health and water quality. Now, I just want to point out some of the key points to it. And you've got the printout here that you can read when you have more time. But in summary, at top, again, the title of it, manure is better for water quality and soil health. And the first 3 bullet point kind of summarizes it, that manure increases the amount of water soil can hold, which reduces nutrient runoff. Manure better restores the health of soil by increasing organic matter. Organic matter is a pretty simple concept. It's a lot of percent solids. Any of the producers here that have worked with manures can tell you about that soil characteristic that says manures applied to sometimes many years ago, but that soil will be healthier, it's less resistant, or it's more resistant to crusting, it's a better seed bed to plant into, and it's got better water capacity. And then using manure as a fertilizer, along with injecting that manure, and that's a key part of it, is a key part in an overall effort to reduce nutrient loss in the water sources. And so with that, what some of the things they found in this study, again, you can read it when you have more time, but the water holding capacity of soils in this study, and this one was again conducted by Iowa State, but they showed an 85 and a 56% improvement in hydraulic conductivity and porosity and water holding capacity by 85% and 56% for compost applications and manure applications. And again, composting, higher solids content, more organic matter, better water holding capacity. So again, it eliminates conduit, lets that water soak into the soil. And with that then, what they found is that extra organic matter increased the soil water content by 3% during the growing season. So again, during the summer, when it gets hot and dry, those manure-like soils with higher organic levels have more water holding capacity for that growing crop. And then with that, you can just, the last page of this is a summary of 7 bullet points, but the very last statement here, I think, is really important in this situation is according to Iowa State's recommendations on reducing nutrient loss, placing nutrients by injection decreases phosphorus runoff by 24% because the nutrients are not exposed to rain or wind. So phosphorus loss to water systems across the country are primarily driven by erosion. And you're fortunate it's fairly flat in these areas, especially where we're at the fields that we've got in manure plants now, probably too flat in a lot of places as far as getting ready to get rid of surface water. But again, getting that phosphorus with the manure injected underground protects that phosphorus from runoff, and keeps it in the soil where those plants can utilize it then through the growing seasons. Those were just some of the points I appreciate the opportunity to share them with you. You've got those with Iowa State University and University of Carolinas in Chapel Hill. They actually did their study in Wisconsin, addressing some lakes that have algae blooms and how to help with that situation. Thank you very much for your time.
My question. How many investors do you have?
Specifically for this project, I believe there's currently 2. When we have a permit and we move forward with the project, is when we'll offer that for the individuals, Eric Peters being our lead, myself being another.
So are you all investors in the United States?
Yes.
Do we have a list of this on?
Yeah, absolutely. And
This
is where this handle.
Okay, and the location is at now, Pierce County. What are we gonna gain out of this, maybe other than maybe $800 for taxes? And one guy getting the murder. What is the rest of the county gonna? I mean, it's all gonna go east, right? Can you be honest?
I'm being honest, I am proud of the honesty that we present in questions here. The folks from the state have offered some additional access to dollars that were spoke about tonight. We've met with local folks over here from the well drillers and others. There's going to be economic benefit for this region. I see not a divide or a wall, simply a county line and location, and this location that was previously permitted and with the intent to have a livestock facility here was acquired when we acquired the community's operation. And that's why we're here tonight and believe this is a value add project for the region without drawing lines between who benefits and where. And I think that's what's very important in the matter that we're prideful of doing business locally and looking forward to that. Okay, I want to, can I say something?
Oh, I got one more question myself. I was, you also brought up the data for the 1 year of whatever. Is there any other gal that do any of this or just hearsay or whatever?
I'd like to look over to the DQ, maybe answer that regarding the permit, and that has to do with regarding when the permit was granted, there's a period of time that you must act upon that initiate construction or that it is no longer valid. That permit is no longer valid. It has nothing to do with when the property is purchased. It's in reference to a permit being granted. In that case, it would be
conditional use permit of the county is effective upon the state's, here tonight. And then, but it's not valid to start construction until after the Department of Environmental Quality is reviewing the state's. That's all right. Did you guys understand the question?
The question is, when you on, we have to, what if we? So your question is, once they get a permit from the ED, how long would they have to start construction? No, wait, with the direct timeline on that, technically we keep an eye on that. Is that if they wait too long, the conditions change or the rules change, they may be have to follow those new rules. So it's in their best interest to get construction as soon as possible, because conditions may change. Now, some of our other permits we have, like for a large, say, power plant, they can have, I think it's 18 months to start construction, so we would keep them.
Did I read the actual law? Did I read the actual law the way it's worded exactly?
Well, 1 minute and we'll. Or you want to come up and read the law, that's fine. We're going to, after this, gonna open up, there's questions from the public, if the public health question. Or ask for health, person can come up and answer it. Go ahead.
So this is from the North Dakota Statute Code, and it's chapter 10, 6, 1 through 12, and I gave you the one to put it, and over the 10 sheriff product holders, and it also, we spoke to Mitch, but he visited left earlier before this starting with Conroe, he had let us know that one, to go for that, and the gentleman originally from Castleton, Peterson, and it's listed but there was 11 at that time. The one we're in question right here is name of that. It is, if an authorized livestock farm corporation or authorized livestock farm limited liability can be intended to be primarily comprised of an animal feeding operation or concentrated animal feeding operation on farmland or ranch, and the corporation or limited liability company thus. A, begin construction of the facility used in the animal feeding operation or concentrated animal feeding operation within 1 year of obtaining the agricultural land. I have the deed, it's been due. That's a weird deed, and here about the law. The law is right here.
And if it doesn't apply or if this does not apply, then if we started construction without a permit, we'd be in major violation with the state. This has nothing to do with when property was purchased. I won't get into examples, but it's not a still.
The law says right there.
There's a lot.
It's pretty clear in the law. You can pass it over to
The lawyer.
can't start building until you get them. You haven't looked at it overall. You have to begin the construction until you have the permit. That's not what it says. You can't begin construction until you have the permit.
I mean, I'm here to do that.
So they don't have a permit in over a year.
So it's legit, yeah.
Yes.
Whatever you ask him, you asked, is it legit? It's legit.
So we're our process that you're going through right now.
So.
That's.
Okay, so. Gentlemen in the white. You got a question?
I was only gonna add some context to that if you want. To the question of the LLC and corporation on that point was brought forward, if you want, give 30 seconds, so this to answer the question to the law. What was referenced there, when that law references, that was passed in the 2023 legislative session. And it says a corporation, and it's not a limited liability company, but limited liability corporation. So any corporation is what that statute, the law refers to. This company, my understanding, it's a limited liability partnership. They're two different, the same as a sole record. So the partnership, but that specific, statute, what is a reference, has to deal with corporations. That's the only thing.
Other comment? Otherwise, if somebody has a health question that they want to ask, I'm going to ask if they do, one of the people or the person for the health department would answer that. That's where we're at.
Sam Wagner from from Dakota Resource Council. My question to the DEQ was, when is the last time that you denied a permit for a animal feeding operation?
You guys want to answer that?
Yeah, for the record, David Black. What we do is we take a look at, the proposal. We do a engineering review, we do the independent review of the operation. And we have some permits that never get to that point to where we get to public comment. If they meet all the requirements of the law, where we meet all the requirements of the rule, then we would go off for public comment. What we're saying is that we feel that the conditions of the law and the rule. But, we look for public comment, then we miss something. If there's something in our review that we didn't see. At that point, we have modified permits and improved them. But we've had several operations that have never got to the stage because we have been conditioned. I don't have a number for you right now. But once we go to public comment, it means that that facility has, in our eyes, met all the requirements. I do not have, as a representative of the DEQ, the ability to say yes or no to somebody, or to say no to somebody that haven't met all the requirements. You meet the law.
So follow up to that. So you were saying that this is not the end, there are next steps to this. However, in that next step, it's pretty much all but guaranteed that this permit is going to be approved. That there has not been ever a permit that has gotten to step 2, and you have said that that is not feasible. After public comments have been made, and you took those public comments into account, you have basically determined that it is not feasible to do that operation.
as long as they meet the requirements of the law. But if they deserve a permit, now we have modified process basis for the town. Concern regarding ditches or proximity to one farms that we're concerned about, and we have modified and. But we do not get the public comment. If we don't even submit the permit to public purview, if we do not believe that they meet the law. It's no sense wasting the police time, no sense wasting our time with the research time if we don't believe that we meet the requirements of the law. One of the things I guess we talk about hydro is that. And one thing I want to ensure that I know this commissioner serves on the state water commission, so the state water resources actually has to have a public hearing and agree to any allotment given to a particular, if it's from the city of Buckley into the rural water system. They have to go through a public permitting process to make sure that there is adequate water granted out. Because we're going through one now in Richmond or an area is utilizing some of the Wapaton's water allocation to be able to supply that. That agreement between the city of Wapaton and that particular dairy is only in the 6-month period. So if we ever went into a drought situation, that type of thing, that's one of the first areas that the state would actually cut off rather than us as a citizens. So that is one of the things that the state will be going through to make sure that it's adequate water to be able to be managed in that system, make sure it doesn't affect any municipality.
So you're saying then that even if this is approved tonight, the state's still gonna do that study?
So,
To make sure there is enough water there?
yes, and what's the way to state all the structure? And I've heard this comment before that the city or county commission, what you would have to do is do a grant and permit to go to the next step. Then after that step, the DEQ goes through the same process, plus the water commission goes through a different process. Make sure it's almost like there's definitely almost 3 different areas. So you as a county commission look at negative location of that particular observation. When it comes to any environmental law, that's handled with DEQ or the State Water Commission. Because that's the sign off on the allocation. Okay, I visited with tonight, in this part of the name Saber. The name is Saber. Okay, and you. City of Rugby doesn't have enough permits to apply water to rural. They're not using all their permits. But my question is, we haven't really heard from rural. We've heard that Texas Bison Ranch had to pump through one of their own wells because the pressure was down. That makes me wonder, and I also carried a driver's license for 26 years, so I drilled all around this whole country. But I don't understand what's in it for the city of Rugby and county when we have to sell water to rural water at cost. And we can't tax the farm other than $800,000 a year. But yet rural water is going to turn around and sell these farmers water at the full price. And yet they're the ones that need the benefit of rural water. Instead, the city of Rugby is going to furnish chlorine, chloride, to the water plant for a bunch of pigs. And I have a hard time. Now, if they're going to drill their own line and get raw water like the golf course does in Rugby, fine. But I don't know why I, as a taxpayer, have to pay, improve our water plant over the years and pay for treated water for a bunch of pigs. My theory. You're running short on water. I mean, where's rural water? Can you keep the pressure up and feed up to 60,000 gallons of water a day? You don't even have towers for it yet. I think things are being jumped ahead. Yeah. There's a lot of unanswered things in this deal. If I may answer, I used to serve on the city council when it developed. I know the water treatment plant, we were limited on where we could sell because of the water level. We have a plant that's half the capacity, or utilizing half the capacity of this, the building. As when I was on the city council, we wanted to be able to hook it up with more water, to be able to sell, and that way we can make that plant more efficient. And maybe, I'm not sure what the agreement is between the city. And that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'm not for the city, not big money, but. And I'm not, why did the city people and the rural water have to pay full price for it? And the city is giving us good water at cost. That doesn't make sense to me. Farmers that are using the water are paying full price. If are you here in rural water? I'm here, you got.
Go ahead.
Let me explain how the city and rural water work together.
I already know that.
Well, not the way you're
I
talking.
know it's, no, they found rural water pays for the electricity and certain amount of maintenance.
You don't want to come up to it like then.
One of the suggestions was, I did EQ works, and they correct me if I'm wrong. But the permit has to be issued locally first. You guys don't issue it, their process doesn't start. And at that point, it's either some litigation that, what it comes to, lets you know that it requires you guys to permit the location first, which will be the process.
Yeah.
I got one more question before you, okay, Bill lives real close to the lot, and this may be a dog, I don't know. But he's not allowed, they're both agriculture, right, that up there's agriculture, he's farm or rancher. He's not allowed to irrigate, right? Irrigate, off the time. There's a whole process on these steps that he would be able to go through to get allotment so we could irrigate. So there is a process. But it is about.
Well, that's the fact. Well, that's the fact that the fuel farm is too close and all the chemicals going into it, it's too close to the well.
Well, in the sewage could be going into it too, eventually.
You really want to take the mic, please. You got the judge comment to make was his question.
Basically, representing the city, we had one train, water, one little water, you know. They then added on all train, so train is what clarifies the water. They paid 30% of the water usage to. They're close to 40% if this goes through, paying all the expenses. That's pumping it from the wells all the way to top, treating it completely, putting it in our storage facilities. They pay 40% of those expenses. So it's not we're giving it to them for cost. We do set up and figure out what the costs of those are and split it. And this would take it up 40%. Okay, city would only use our 60% of the water.
Also,
We're not using it enough. There's more than enough time. It's been at an hour of treatment per day. I've checked all this out, okay? I'm protecting the city in the rural farm, because that's what you serve. Okay? There's more acre feet left. Whatever people say now. This is from Emperor Nightmare. Yeah. The guy you and I talked to, we didn't get to talk to the standing or whatever that meeting was. That's who you and I talked. This came from the record. Okay. This was the engineering way.
why won't you let me got that?
The way we found the definitely furnished water. The way we found it, we're giving it back to us.
But I had deal that the bill 5 years ago, and it was just okay, but. It wasn't. AEI, $300,000 that was paid down. That's been anything to the water. That was the street engineering that did that. No, they took it over because I started with the loan. No, I'm not going to try to do it.
We're not gonna get into
Yeah,
that.
I know.
Hey, Neil, I have a question. Yeah. So as long as you're there or whatever, and you're involved with the water situation. Okay, so we have to beef up our infrastructure to supply all of that water. Where does that cost go to?
We don't have to be, but we have enough infrastructure right now.
To take care of all of that,
To supply the water.
60,000 gallons a day.
It's 11%. The increase is 45 acre feet per year. We have 711 acre feet. Okay, and we're not even close to it. We know what other new agreement. Do you remember when we brought gooseneck in? And they learned how to grow fire protection. We done some more acre feet. Well, it turned out great because it gave gooseneck, we gave right across the street, and then we gave green plastic. We will be looking at an agreement, as it passes, to benefit the city in rural water.
You do that every year,
And true, is not every year, this is a new agreement. Okay. Yeah, whether we trade land for it, we did, what, don't worry about the city and water, that's all I'm saying.
No, there's something else, I was going there, when we only had one water line coming in, fire. And it blew apart, and it took 4 years before we got that repaired. And we could run into a situation like that again. What happens to rural water?
We're not going to run out of water, we have 2 lines from.
We only had one. One in 4 years.
There's the old line, the other line, yeah, we're not gonna take it, that can happen whether they're at it or not. Okay, so that's not a viable situation.
If you put the line, you said it isn't gonna happen.
If you include the have daily effects, you can't be without water, period.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Hey, down, again, we are over. Everybody has the water coming in, if we have water coming in. Order to 50,000 gallons a day. What happens to water after it leaves the facility? Because all those things that the hurricane lake, all goes down the stream, all in the, that's, this should be my problem.
You want to talk to my area, I'm sorry, but my area is not that good. So, if you'd like to remind, that would be good.
Start over?
Yep, go ahead.
Alan Husker, City of Leeds, I'm Director of Public Works. Everybody talks about the water coming, they're gonna get enough water. Leeds actually drain people's water over some month third. And people, 1,000 gallons a day. So almost 22 million gallons a day, 22 million gallons a day. With that being said, where all this water go after it's being used? It's all gonna end up in Hurricane Lake, and surrounding areas, and it's all gonna end up in my backyard. Are gonna be visions farther down the line, get rid of the water. You're
I'm sorry, are we what?
I can make provisions for it, because all water goes through the irrigating. And then it ends up in Bell Lake.
Well, supposedly, that water's not going to be polluted to go there. And that's what they're proposing, is that water is not going to get into the same.
Where's it gonna go?
Into the soil, I guess. I mean, I don't have that answer. Yes, Mitch, do you have that answer? Huh? Or do you have that answer? Then, please.
It's by law, that if they were discharged after the surface, they would need a different permit to be able to use it, and that water would have to be treated before they discharge. If they don't discharge, then they have to contain it, and then utilize that as a manure to be injected into the soil and nutrient management. So it does not go straight to the other point you make earlier was that it's not adding more on top of commercial fertilizer that's going to be put with it. It's being used in place of commercial fertilizer, and then they may add a little commercial fertilizer to make sure the nitrogen level. It's not a direct discharge to the lake, and it's not going to get them to go with it.
That would be a question I would have too, I guess, to Mitch and Chris. Is so like in the wintertime, I mean, during the summer or whatever, stuff can get, if it's put into the soil. Okay, so what does happen to all of this in the wintertime?
And we're having the manures held in the concrete storage, pit of the building.
So there's enough capacity there to hold it for the whole winter months, which is, can be as much as, 8 months.
Right. Yeah, in the information, the packet I shared, planning, zoning, as well as tonight. And the permits that the for the application and design standards that will be submitted to the DEQ for their review. Will justify and back that up, more than, the minimum required capacity, significantly not more storage than it's required. So we're doing that to ensure in an event of the inability to apply all more in good soil conditions to protect water quality, those nutrients, ensure that they stay in that soil to fertilize that crop. So we have more than a year's storage of this in that facility. Probably 16 months of storage with that designed into this facility.
Well, for that many hogs, that storage facility would hold everything that period of time.
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Let's say you have the storage facility at 16 months. Top of top of the tank. How many, like within how many hours can you get that to zero? Like how many days can you get that to zero? Like what's the capacity to remove manure from the tank?
I'm guessing that the case is, and Mitch can answer that, but the case is it'll never get the full capacity, but it'll hold it for 16 months. Because we're gonna have spring and summer and whatever, and then that should get removed.
Guess what?
But he can answer that, I can't. That would be my calculation that, if you had enough for 16 months, it's never gonna get to that point.
The point that I'm trying to make here is that when you are looking at a situation where, let's say, we've all had the farm in the field where field's rainy, field's good for a week, all of a sudden maybe we have rain, maybe we have snow, field for a week. So I think the pertinence to that question is, if you are trying to get that tank down in a reasonable amount of time, like, do you have capacity, if all of your farmers that are signed up for your manure contract, that within a week or even within a day, how quickly can you get that out, is my question.
Chris, do you have a comment for that or an answer? Yeah, Chris.
Current application pumps today, and they vary, but a lot of the modern, or a lot of the current pumps are pumping 1,000 to 2,000 gallons a minute as they're flying through the field. So once those field conditions get right, they can pump that down in a hurry. A lot of times we'll pump a 5,000 head finishing site in 24 hours. And the math finish on this.
Annual manure production for this permitted application is 8,256,832 gallons projected annually production at the permitted capacity of the permit. 2,000 gallons. If we're pumping that manure at 2,000 gallons a minute, incorporating into the soil, we're projected to apply an application rate of 9,000 gallons per acre. That math is 67.3 hours based on that math. Now you pump the annual production. And that
Dave's going to, and 2 million gallons of, the end capacity of the pit is nearly 11 million gallons, which is 180% passenger related for more than 16 months of that being pulled throughout. Remember, for everybody's time, questions, answered, and I guess I've worked with you to do that.
Real quick thing, I appreciate the questions. I've been in questions when we get to the permitting process. And the law, that's not really the purview of the zoning board, but those are the kind of questions that hopefully we get. If other deal with, past media there, because it's good for your asset, how do you deal with the forest and wrong with the type of question typically you get here in the public. Tom,
what kind of stewards have the current swine barns that are established in town county? How they've been doing? Any complaints? Any sanctions?
The operation, and we looked at, the complaints and also what skills there. And I will tell you, any operation, whether you're a farmer, whatever, if we get reports from farming operations that have skills. And what we look at, first of all, both of the complaints, last complaints we had were primarily was initially what was after they just started up. Haven't heard it that much since then. And I can get you that data.
Just generally speaking, have there been complaints about the current facilities in Towner County? And of any of the issues we've talked about?
Our formal complaint history on each of them go back to 2008. More older related, those were rectified fairly quickly. There would have been some spills, those spills were reported, and were cleaned up right away. Contaminated soil will spread out over there. The sanctions as far as a non-reported spill can be pretty significant, up to $12,000 a day. And so they have a vested interest in reporting anything that we could of value, right? And that's just things happen. The result, those type of failures have been contained on site. They were also implemented.
So is it fair for understanding correctly, no substantive complaints since 2008?
That's what our records show.
How about any complaints or concerns about sewage in this Bobby, Cooley, and other water courses that come through Towner County that make their way to Lake Dallas, for example? They have complaints or concerns.
Yeah, have not had those complaints. Now, I will tell you that, those water bodies are impacted from all the activities that go out to the watershed. And not just a hog farm. And but we haven't had those complaints. We do monitor those, while they cool away, in the water quality in there to determine things getting where it was. What you deal with are not only land use practices, but also the natural, the flywood, the geese, the birds that come through there, they have an impact on them as well. So we keep an eye on all of that. If we were going to see some major spikes, contamination, we would try to track that down, where is that coming from, and try to take care of rectify that to make sure that if it was application practices, that those would have to change so we wouldn't have that.
Mr. Galat, when was the last time you actually did anything on Lake Alice or Mavi Cooley? When was the last time?
Part of monitoring,
So this is my girl's so, if we can handle this, we did pull data. The state hasn't had any samples there, but the USGS had been taking samples on Lake Alice. You know, the summary points, since it seems to be, full of nitrogen, full of phosphorus, seems to be the constituents. There's only one sample for E. coli. Then again, the Lake Alice is also a waterfall, circulated, so refuge, so They didn't do all that sampling on that part. But what they've shown, I know that one study went from 2007 to 2011. So this data goes from 2010 current. I'm willing to, I do this with you guys, but there's no for total nitrogen, there's no total heating or increase in Lake Alice. Same with total phosphorus, it seems to be very properly. But you're not seeing it, you're seeing it up or down, it just seems to kind of even. So that was whatever's going on, that's what's going on in the past. Right now, that's just the data.
If it's even, the levels are higher than the standards of North Dakota and the US, the EPA. So even is not so good. Even is not so good. Because that study, all the levels were a lot higher than your standards and the EPA standards. So if you're just running even, you're running it over.
What standard for sure you talking about?
That's spatial one. It said that a lot of that pollution was way higher than the North Dakota standards and the EPA standard. So if you're running even since then, it's too high. So you're basically letting pollution in there and into Devil's Lake.
I'm back at Saturday before, I will then. Hey, are you talking about drinking water standards or?
Now, whatever that spatial study was, it was all kinds of bad things that was going into climate cooling and Lake Alice. So if you're, and those standards are way higher, they exceeded North Dakota, they exceeded the US EPA. So now you're saying that it's still even? What I'm saying is, it's still too high.
Okay, so that from 2011 to 2024, right now total phosphorus through maybe Alice complex, phosphorus was right around 0.4 on average before going down for milligrams per liter. Right now, the state does not have standard on phosphorus for water quality units. No nitrogen right now, there's a standard for non-human source. However, right now, on the third line, I'm going earlier, we're looking at 1.5, 2 from 2010 to 2023. Looks like it's right around 1.5 milligrams per liter. I'm still familiar with that and maybe this is what we do.
So, okay, so we're looking at Jeff's question was as far as, they're not changing, so they're not good. So, how long has the hog barn been in Honor County?
2005.
2005? So this study was done after that or whatever.
That one that we're talking about, picture 1.
7 to 11.
Thrown into that study current, you just kind of see like, hey, what was going on. And right now, said the gals, it's not showing what turned up, it's really not showing what turned down, it's just it wants to hold the week export this. There's a different spikes up now, but I think it was not very much.
So there's a possibility that it could have impacted the nutrients or the things that are in Lake Alice. I think that's probably the question kind of is, did that affect that? And now it's staying the same because it's the same, what's going on?
It's exceeded the levels. So if it's staying the same, it's exceeded. And that's what's gonna happen to poor hurricane rain.
I'm still not sure what standards is San Francisco.
Appreciate the comments, we do look at a lot of quality. And this is getting into permitting and this, which is beyond the zone. But when you look at our permit for the nutrient management plan, we have required that basically we have only the ingredients of the plants. So the chance of runoff is greatly minimized. You don't get that on all